Hey, how's it going? Hugh Gartizer here. Still working on my cylinder heads for my little super stock Sunfire. And I want to make this short video. I want to show you what I'm doing here. I got my intercomp spring checking machine. Got my springs. These are a used set of springs, but that's why I'm checking them. See if they still have the proper tension that the factory set up, when they made them. I got a brand new set of springs, but I want to check these first. And I got this all zeroed out, and what I do is crank this down. My installed height is 2 inches, and I want to crank this down to get to 2 inches, read the readout, and so far I've done probably 7 of them. This is number 8, and everything is right in the 266 pounds at 2 inches. So these springs are still, I was told they were good, and so far they're checking out. And let me just show you what we're doing here. Take this spring, get it down in the machine, make sure the machine is on 0, crank this guy down, and the installed height is 2 inches. So the digital readout is not working. I changed the batteries, so it's not working, but I got my little 2-inch, got a 2-inch gauge right here, and put it in here, crank this guy down till it just touches. I know that we're at 2 inches height, and that is just touching. It kind of wants to hang in there, and without compressing it too tight. You can see it's standing right up there. And this particular spring is 267. It's bouncing between 67 66. So I know that this spring, all of them are very consistent so far. So I know that we're good on this. Let the tension off, and then I'm marking each one on the top with an industrial Sharpie. 267. And that way they're all the same. Nothing is varied so far that I have to be concerned about it. But take the next spring and put it in the machine. Get it tight. Start cranking it down. The machine will set at 0. I got this marked over here also when I know I'm getting close, and I use my little spring height gauge height mic right here, and crank it down till it just touches. I know I'm at 2 inches. Right there. It's just wanting to hang on right there. So it's just standing up on its own. It's probably a little too tight. Right there. We got 268. It's bouncing between 267 and 268. So that one's very consistent. Everything is in the 266, 67. And I'll make this 268. So there's no need for concern, and that's what I'm attacking. And grab the next one. Machine's on 0. Get it down, crank it down 2 inches. Get this little gauge in there where it just fits. Just wants to stand up on its own. Right there, 266 0, 267. It's bouncing back and forth a little bit. 266 8, 266. So I think all these springs at 2 inches are going to have 265 or 6 inches. No problems. I'll know exactly how much shim that I need to put into the head once I get that done. 268. So all of these are right where they're supposed to be. They're not dead. And but that's what I'm doing now. Getting these springs all set up. Once I get the heads, start putting them together, I'll let you know. Take care. Hey, how you doing? Hugh Gartizer here. Got another episode of building a racing engine. It's taken me a little while, but you know, I got to work to make a living. But I want to show you what we're doing here today. I'm going to turn this phone around so you can get an idea of what we're doing. What I'm doing is I ordered my new push rods, and I'm going to show you in just a minute how I'm going to check to make sure that the push rod length that I ordered was correct. And so here we go. All right, as you can see, I got a Gesso rocker arm system, small block Chevy, SB2. This is SB2. And I got a little bottle right here. I had to go buy a new one because I was out of the other one. This is layout fluid. It's that blue steel fluid for laying out parts and pieces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of that on the tips of each of these two checking. These are actually my valves and the valve keepers and everything. And here I've got a little, you probably can't see it, I got a little lash puck right here. It's not a lash cap, it's a lash puck. These are 7mm valves, and on this one, which is the exhaust side, I do not have that, and the reason for that I'll explain to you in a minute. But this valve sticks up slightly from the retainer, and this one sits down, and this is the intake, which is usually a higher lift, and it sits down flush around the surface of the retainer. These are the checking springs, the tools for adjusting. But anyway, I'm going to put this phone on the other side over here, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to put a little blue on the top of each of these. I'm going to put my two push rods, which are two different lengths, and for the system that I'm using here, the Gesso belt drive system, they're two different lengths, and the intake is a little bit shorter than the exhaust by just a little bit. The intakes are 9-inch. No, I'll take that back. The intakes they're almost 9-inch. They're at 8.900. I don't know if you can see that. And the exhausts are 9-inch. So it's just a little bit difference in the two. I had a push rod checking tool that I used to measure everything, put it all together with a brand new timing chain. Got my lifters down in here. Everything's looking good. Got the heads, and once I determined the length that I needed, I went ahead and ordered brand new push rod. These are Smith Brothers, and you know, they're very good. The intake is a little bit shorter than the exhaust push rod, and this is what I'm using. I got 3 sets of rockers. I'm starting off on my intake with a 1.80 ratio, and my exhaust, you can see it, focus here, is a 1.65. You can see that 1.65 on the exhaust, 1.80 on the intake. We got a 9-inch exhaust push rod and a 8.900 on the intake. Okay, but what I want to do is to make sure, and I've already done this, but I just want you to see what I'm doing, because this has kind of been a lengthy process. I want to put the blue on top of here. I'm going to let it dry just a few seconds. I'm going to mock up everything with the you know, the cam, the lifter is down at the base circle. And then I'm going to adjust it all. I'm going to let the rocker arm ride across the top of this surface with the blue, and it should make a mark. And the object of all of this is to make sure that this roller, through the entire travel of the engine, because this guy's going to go to, it's going to go to 9,500 RPM. so that you're not putting any undue stress on the valve. You know, you don't want the roller to roll any farther past the center or any farther behind than what's absolutely necessary. And once all this stuff, there's not much adjustment to make these, to adjust that from happening, to correct it, I'm sorry, you have to put shims under this Gesso rocker system. And I have a set of shims, and what that does effectively is raise or lower. Well, you can't go any lower. I'm down on the bottom. I've already checked all of this, but I've machined the surface so that I don't have to use a shim, but I do have some in case I do need it. But what's going to show up here in just a minute is how far that roller rolls across. You want it to remain in the center of that travel through the entire lift, and I'll show you that in just a second. We're gonna so let me put this phone on the other side over there, and make sure you can look down the line. I'll get this out of the way, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. And then I'll take you, once the pattern is on there, I can get this guy to stand up here. Once the pattern is on there, I'll let you see it more clearly. Now, hang on just a second. Here we go. All right. Got the marking compound, got everything ready, kind of cleaned off the surface. Just want to put a little bitty bit on the top of the push rod. I mean, I'm sorry, on top of the valve stem, so that you can see the pattern. Very little bit. It's just a very little bit. It doesn't take very much. I'm gonna let this dry. I'll show you this picture before I do it. It's so you can see when material is hitting something, metal against metal, you can see the pattern that it's making. It's like an alcohol dye that dries very quickly. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, here's what I've done. I put a little bit of the blue, sorry about the light, on the top of each of these. And right now there's no mark. When the roller rolls across this, you are going to see the silver that's underneath it. Can you see that? Right there. Anyway, both of them have the blue marking compound on top. So let me put you back over here, because I don't have anything to hold this phone. Okay? Sorry about that. Alright, let me put you right there till I get this all set up. Okay. Got the rocker arms, got the push rods, and intake is shorter. Make sure that the roller, the lifters are at the base circle, all the way at the bottom, riding on the base circle of the cam when you put this together, so you can set everything up. And then this sits in here. And I'm going to tighten this hand tight. I've already checked the valve to piston clearance. I didn't make a video of it, but I had to make a mold of my pistons. I wanted above 16:1 compression, and I had to make a mold of my pistons. CP Racing Pistons sells a kit. It's an epoxy. It's two chemicals that it's just enough. If you go online making a mold of your piston, you'll see everybody does it. It's just enough to make you get the head on there without the gasket. You tighten it all up, put everything together. You flip the motor upside down where the combustion chamber is at the bottom, perfectly square. Put a level on it. I got a digital readout. Put a level on it to get it perfectly square. You mix these two things together, you pour them together, and through the crankshaft and the cylinder, you get a little funnel. You pour this liquid down in there, and it rests on the bottom of the combustion chamber and makes a perfect mold of your combustion chamber. And it comes up about 1/4 of an inch past where the head gasket surface is. And you let that dry. It takes about an hour. I let it dry for 2 hours. You spray the combustion chamber with WD-40 so it doesn't stick. Anyway, you put all that in there, you let it firm up, then you flip the motor back over, you carefully take the head off, and this stuff stays in the combustion chamber. You kind of work it back and forth, and when you pop it out, you have a perfect device of your combustion chamber. And you send that off, and I got a brand new set of CP racing pistons for this deal, and there's a lot more to it. I told them exactly what the free length was of the valve drop and everything. Told them the specs on the cam. They were able to machine into the piston the perfect depth for the clearance for the valves, the fly cutting. I don't have to fly cut the pistons because I got 80 thousandths, about 85 thousandths on the with the head gasket, which is 50. I got 85 thousandths on the exhaust, which is the most critical because the piston's coming up while the exhaust valve is opening. That's the one you want to have the most clearance. And I've got 82 thousandths on the intake. And so there you are. Okay, back to this thing. So I got all of that. And the piston's inside there. Now we're going to set this all up. And I got this almost adjusted where it needs to be. With the, I had this adjusted where I got 22 thousandths of valve lash, which is right there. And then now let's do this other side. This is the exhaust side. Get this sitting down in there. Get this all tightened up. Just everything just needs to be snug. Use the right wrench. And everything just needs to be real nice and snug so that you can get that pattern. Across the tip of that valve stem. Okay. Got that all in there. Now I need to crank down on the adjuster where the lash was on the exhaust side, which is right 22 thousandths, which is about right there. And I'm going to snug it just a little bit more. So hopefully it'll make that impression. Okay. Now both of them are installed on the base circle. I got my wrench here on the crankshaft, and we're going to see if we can make that impression on the valve surface. The roller is rolling across the tip of the valve stem at the top, and hopefully it will make an impression so you can see where this thing is in relation to the correct push rod length. Okay. And we're going to get back on the base circle so we don't upset anything, which is right there. Take these loose. Get the rockers out of the way. Hopefully it left the impression that I'm hoping for, because I already did it. This is the exhaust. This is the intake. Just set those off to the side. The intake didn't make the, well, it made the impression, but it didn't take the blue off. I think I put too much. Take a look. Here's what we got. Through the entire motion, see if I can focus this a little bit better. Through the entire motion of the exhaust valve, which is right here, this one here, you can see that that roller pretty much, I mean, the blue, it's staying through the entire motion. It's staying right in the center, right in the very center of that valve. It starts kind of, you know, where it actually rolls across. It starts in the back. It rolls across as through full lift. It rolls across the center, just slightly past center, and then rolls all the way back. And that is perfect because it's during the high RPM of the engine. It won't be putting undue excessive force either this way or that way on the valve. The valve will stay straight up and down. Now then, this one here, you can't. It didn't take the bluing off, the machining, but you can see the impression. It is probably not easy to see, but it's slightly, you can't really see it. It starts the same way, actually. It worked perfectly the first time I did it. It starts right at the back over here, and it rolls across the center, and it just goes past center and then comes right back. So it's actually going, I don't think I can focus this because of that darn light up above. I'm sorry about that. See if I can get that to stay. Anyway, you might have to just take my word on it. It's rolling just across the surface of the center, and that's what we want. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I think I dabbed too much of it on there. It's a little bit thick. There's not enough friction to make. I don't think I can do it with this. This stuff goes across. You might be able to see it now. It takes it. There it is. It takes it just past the center and then rolls it right back. There's an equal amount of blue on the back side as there is the front side. And so I'm very happy with the push rod length. Okay, and the same thing there. This one here, it didn't take it all the way off, but it's right about there. That whole travel is right about the center of the valve. There's just a little bit more blue on the front side over here, or I guess outside, than there is in the back, but it does continue to travel across the center, and there's nothing excessively on this side of it or the back side of it. So I'm very happy with the push rod length. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I didn't make the video when I made the adjustable push rod, but you can Google that and you'll see people how they determined that. So, you know, we're getting a little bit farther. The heads are all done, pistons are all in, we don't have to flat cut them. I know the push rods are correct now, so this baby's going to start going back together because I'm ready. I am ready. Hear this thing. So, you know, anyway, I had a friend of mine that did a similar motor. He ended up super stock, ended up with a SB2. His deal's already gone together because he paid somebody to do it. I'm not paying anybody to do mine. I'm doing my own. But anyway, he did end up with 855 horsepower. And if I can end up right there, I'll be very happy. I think, you know, the record in my class is 850 something at 2,500 pounds. This is a 340 cubic inch motor, and I got to be somewhere around 25 to 2,800 pounds in this class that I'm running. So if I get 850 horsepower, I'll be very, very happy. Okay, so that's the scoop right now. Hopefully I'll get a little farther along when I start putting it all together. We got that manifold made. If you're following my videos, we're rocking, and I'm ready to go. So that's what we're doing. The machining fluid to check the piston, the rocker arm ratio and the push rod length. And you want everything to come together so it doesn't hit on the valve incorrectly. So it's just, I didn't scratch it quite far enough, but it rolls to about the center right there. Just past center and then back. So we're in the ballpark. Thanks again. Bye-bye.